I was just thinking about that because when I think about my mom, like my mom's example was work ethic, right? Like she was this tremendous woman of God, just like my grandmother was, right? Grandmother Eleanor DuPause, man. And what was, how do I want to word it? When I think about those two women, they led by example. And when they said something, it wasn't wasted words.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't just fluff. Like it had impact. It was like, I'm not just saying
Real
this to
life
kind of rah you.
lesson,
Like, right, this is like, I used, loving those talks with my grandmother.
Yeah.
Like I didn't get a ton of like when as many as I would have liked, right? Because I didn't live in Baton Rouge. But every time I was there and I got a chance to talk to her, there was just so much meat and so much richness in her wisdom.
Love it. It's always that way, right? With your grandparents, it's like that perspective they have because they've lived life, overcome the obstacles that you're facing, and you're like, how am I going to do this? And they're like, hold up.
Yeah.
Let me just drop this for you right here. Like you say, nuggets. Like
nuggets, right? They're years of experience that they've lived life and the things that they learned through that, sometimes that life experience is one of the greatest teachers. Like I'm all for education. Yeah. But man, find somebody that has lived a life of impact and ask them questions. Whew. Yes. Man, there's just so much richness and gold in the midst of that.
It's so good, Coach. That's so good. So that's one way to start a podcast where we just basically dropping it in deep over here with the words of wisdom from our grandparents. And Coach, that made me think of something we kind of talked about on the phone. Yeah. And I was talking with some other parents, like Carson's parents and things like that, with about just not allowing the opportunities that you have to just be squandered, right? Mm-hmm. So how can you help communicate that as a coach to like the kids and the players? And we kind of had a chat about something in my past that I realized, but I want to hear it from you, Coach. How do you get that, like that max effort, like there's a huge opportunity for some of these kids.
Yeah. And it's a great question. I mean, I think let me start off like this, right? It's really a shout out to, we have some great parents we've been able to interact with, right? And parents have to entrust their kids to us as coaches, right? And with the hopes that their kid is going to be encouraged, pushed, challenged, to help them bring out what their best is, right? And so, even this past weekend, as I was thinking about that, like our 14U team, this group, their first tournament, AAU tournaments, right? And to make it to the semifinals, and some of them have never played any AAU ball before. Yeah. But their ability to be coached was key. And their defense is what kept them in games. We know we have a lot of work offensively, taking care of the ball and all that kind of stuff. But when you go back to that question about like how to get through when it comes to max effort to kids, it's one that I've been like wrestling about and thinking about even this week in practice, right? Practice last night. I'm watching kids run, running down and backs, and some kids give max effort, their max effort, and some are just like, man, I can
coasting,
care less, right? Coasting. Yeah. They're not giving max effort.
You can tell.
And it's one of those things where I'm like, what's going through their mind when they know coaches are watching, and it's their effort is going to give them more opportunity to play. I had a kid come up to me after the tournament this weekend, and his question was, Coach, how can I earn more minutes? And I said, in practice. Yeah. What I would like to see is the things that we talked to you about. Are you receiving information and are you able to execute? Yeah. Okay. Then consistent effort. Yeah. Okay. So I talked to this young man after practice last night, and I said, hey, bud, I'm going to be real with you. Remember that question you asked me after the game? And I said, you remember what I told you? And I said, today in practice, did you give max effort? Oof.
Put him on
and
the
this
spot.
and it was just me and him talking, right?
Yeah.
And he was like, no. And this is so. I said, me as a coach, I said, you know, I love you. You know, I want the best for you.
Yeah.
So when you ask me for, you want more playing time, you want to earn it, but then you don't go get an effort. Who is that really on?
Yeah.
And so, and I don't want to be that old guy, you know, talking about like, man, my day, my era.
No.
It was just, it was different circumstances where like some of the coaches I played for early on, it's not that they didn't care. But this might sound crazy, but some of them really didn't care.
Yeah.
Because it was like,
Yeah.
hey man, I really don't care about your feelings because I'm trying to win ball games.
Yeah.
So if my expectation is for you to run hard and you don't do it, you're not getting off the bench.
Yeah.
Like there's no debate. There wasn't like, I can go to my coach, hey coach, how can I earn minutes? I think that's more available in today's day and age, and I think that's a good thing. I think kids should be able to ask that. But that wasn't an option for me in high school.
Yeah.
So I don't know. So to offer that to kids and them not take that, sometimes I'm like, wow, if I was in your shoes and I had that option with a coach, what would I do?
I mean, that's a good point, because there's some coaches that aren't like you or Rich or other coaches we have around the Lions that like will take the time and say, hey, did you get max effort in practice? Yeah. They'll just look at them and say, oh, they don't care, and then not play them. So you guys that are listening out there, listen to what coach is saying, because there's not good coaches out there. And some coaches, all they care about is their name and winning.
Yeah.
And it's tough when you get coaches like that. So.
And it's we live in a time where we want more coaches that care, right?
Yeah.
Now there's a lot out there that do, but there's a lot out there that don't. It's unfortunate. So as players, this is the advice I want to give you, okay? No matter what the outcome, or understand delayed gratification, your effort, your max effort may not give you microwave results, but it will give you results in a long-term play, so to speak, for lack of a better word. Yeah. And what I mean by that is like you're training yourself in that moment to learn how to give max effort. And the fruit may not come right in this moment, but the fruit may come while you're working at a job. It may come while you're in college in a classroom. You know how to persevere and work hard through tough circumstances.
As you were saying that, I had to pull up this quote because it goes with it so much. But we've been posting it on Go Get It and others Instagram, and it's everyone has the will to win, but very few have the will to prepare to win.
One that's a good quote. You got to send that one to him.
Yeah, I think it's Vince Lombardi or someone that said that. But it's like, it's true, Coach. Like it's, and I think about that question as well that we had at the start of the podcast, and the way that I felt like God has shown it to me. Mm-hmm. And I'm only realizing this now, and I'm in my 40s. And, when I was growing up, my granny used to always, every time I'd see her, she would always say, I pray for you every day. Yeah. And, as a kid, I'm like, oh, cool. Yeah, thanks, granny. Where's my $50 for my birthday money? Yeah. Right? And
always do that.
Yeah. And so what I started to realize as I got older is that I'm a product of all those prayers from my mom and dad and my grandmother and grandfather and so on. And now these opportunities that I have, I don't want to spoil them because it was their toil, their prayers. Yeah. And now God has gifted me with a platform or an opportunity, whether you're a young baller or you're a coach. Like, you never know the impact you could have and the opportunity you were given because of the people that came before you praying for you.
Yeah.
And it's like, as players, I want y'all to hear that and think about that. Think about the sacrifices made for you. And so now you see how important that opportunity is. It's like,
man, you talked about our mothers, our grandmothers praying for us, right? And it was also their example.
Yes.
Right. And so we see that and I'm blown away because I know my mom, she's still, and this is a shout out to moms where she still prays with the same prayer partner. I think they've been doing it for about 30 35 years,
Wow,
something like that.
man.
I don't know the number, but I know
Yeah,
when she
it's a
comes,
lot.
when she comes to visit, right? She'll be up early in the morning.
Yeah.
And my boys are like, Dad, who's grandma talking to? I said, oh, she's talking to her prayer partner.
Yeah.
And she's praying for her kids, like her,
Yeah.
like her kids, her grandkids, her
Yep.
great grands. She's praying for all of them. Like that's a part of her legacy.
Yeah.
Right? And so I was sharing when I was meeting with somebody earlier, and there's this thing that I say to kids or even guys that I'm mentoring and people I'm talking to is like, we all have a story,
Yeah.
right? Let's inspire others through it. And so what does that mean, right? Like you're on this journey, your story is constantly being developed.
Yeah.
In your story, it's whatever act you're in, whether you're in Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, depending on your age, whether you're in Act 4, right? Like we're talking about this story of your life.
Yeah.
What do you want people to see of your story?
Yeah.
Like here's a kid who never worked hard. Here's a kid who never reached his max potential. Here's a young man or young woman who never reached their max potential because they were unwilling to work hard.
Yeah.
What do you want your story to be?
Yeah.
Because this is your opportunity, right? And so as I observed my grandmother and my mom, it's fun to tell their story because, my mom is getting ready to be 80 next year. She's in Act 4, right? And her story, her legacy is like incredible. And I'm constantly talking about it because I watched her sacrifice for so many years.
Went through hard things.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Persevered. That's the thing, man.
Yeah.
Dude, you know what's crazy about that is I was randomly scrolling Instagram, and there was this like neuro doctor giving like a TED talk, and they were talking about how they've studied patterns in people's brains, and how athletes typically have different patterns than other people because they're used to going through something that's hard and finishing it.
Yeah.
And so it literally creates these pathways in your brain. To where if you've gone through difficult times and you went and you completed it, it like makes your brain better. And so, I mean, I'm paraphrasing, he's all the science terms and stuff, but like, I'm not that smart, but it's like just hearing that and hearing, there's so many benefits to it. Right. Yeah. And it's just like, I don't know. I just think about it all the time, man. And I think about don't squander those opportunities.
Yeah, and here's the reality, right? Like with our program from the academy to the AAU teams, et cetera, like I do spend time praying for these kids.
Yeah.
And it's not remove the ego, the pride out of it. I really feel like Rich and the team around us, we have a heart to sow into the next generation.
Yes.
Right? And so there's an authenticity with that.
Yes.
And so part of our responsibility is to pray over these kids, to push them hard, be hard, right? There's hard, being hard on them, and it's in the right way, right? Like we're not just like, hey, guys, this is not easy. Especially the kids that say, hey, they raise their hands and say, hey, I want to play college ball. Do you know what that requires of you?
I got a great example of that. Because seriously, thinking about what's required of that, sacrifice, right?
Yeah.
And like Wyatt and I were driving home from go get it, practice. Mm-hmm. And he was just like, man, I can't believe I was in a room with Coach Carlos.
Yeah.
And like who he's worked with and things like that. And I said, it's just like Coach Leo and Coach Rich say, you never know who will walk in the gym.
Yes.
And I was trying to explain to him now so that he gets it and builds that work mm-hmm. ethic. So when he's 16, right? Yeah. And I'm like, hey, you literally have coaches around you. They're such good coaches with good hearts that if you put in the work, you will have opportunities.
Oh, no question.
And so it's like, trying to like explain that to him and explain it to the kids that we're around. It's like, there's a reason why you guys preach maximum effort and don't squander, like
man, Wade.
Because it only takes one person. And then put this on the flip, right?
Yeah.
Let's say you don't have a grandmother or a mom or dad are praying for you, right? Think about how you can change your family dynamic going forward. You can literally change generations just by a simple game of basketball and learning work ethic.
Work ethic. In this day and age,
I'm ready, Coach. When you say that, I'm always like, okay, here comes the nuggets.
Man, it's foreign sometimes.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I don't know, like when the talks I used to have with my grandmother, like her era, her generation, work ethic was like the norm.
Yeah.
Like was.
Yeah.
I never really heard her talk about, hey man, these folks around me were just lazy. And I was like, no, we got to get it done.
Yep.
Like, we lived through some tough times and they saved money well. Like, it's like, you know, you think about the people that went through the Great Depression and all this kind of stuff. And you're like, man,
how'd they do it?
How did they do it? Yeah. Right. And we have access to so much now that where when I was going to, I had to time my VHR, it's for the VHS tapes, VCR. I said VHR, VCR. I had to program it, try to get the time, the date, make sure it came on, make sure my TV was on that channel.
Yep.
So I can record a game that I wanted to watch and I wanted to study.
Yeah.
So now, kids can literally go
right here, Coach,
on their phones. I want to watch this game.
You can find them all on YouTube too, like full games.
Full games, right?
Yeah.
And I'm looking at this and I'm like, whoa, so much access, but yet they don't always pursue it. So when I say, kids, how much do you practice on your IQ, your basketball IQ?
Yeah.
And what does that mean? Like, you know, here it's like, because it's used very loosely. Yeah. People say, oh, basketball IQ, basketball IQ. Well, what does that mean? Some kids, I don't know if kids even know what it means. Yeah. It's your basketball intelligence. It's your ability to be able to process basketball information fast. So when I'm on a court and the ball is being swung and a defense is in chase mode, do I know what to do before the ball touches my hands? Or do I catch the ball, pause, process? By then it's too late.
Yep.
So when I'm watching and I'm studying games and I'm watching as a student and not as a fan, now I'm constantly processing information and I'm able to almost kind of predict what would happen if I do this, right?
Yeah.
You see these great point guards, they'd be like, man, that guy saw 2 or 3 plays ahead.
How do you know? Yeah.
Like John Stockton, Magic Johnson, Jason Kidd. Like Jason Kidd, man, I still
he
love
was
watching.
So good.
Oh, so like
Steve Nash, like
Nash, just a master of being able to see things before they happen.
Yeah.
That's not an accident. Like, you don't wake up and do that. That's something that's learned. And that's why, so you see a guy like Steve Nash, he's not known as an athlete, but why did he have such a long NBA career? Why did John Stockton have such a long NBA career? It wasn't because they were dunking on people.
Yep.
Right? It wasn't because they were known as like these phenomenal lockdown defenders. What did they do that was so special? It was their basketball intelligence. Yeah. Jason Kidd came in the league. He was known as Asen because he didn't have a J, right? It's like, you know, and here's a guy who literally developed a jumper, and I think he's like 4th all time or 5th all time in 3-pointers made. Like,
that kills the narrative of you got to be a scorer, right?
Kills the narrative, right? Yeah. And so there's so much when I think about that. I know we're bouncing around here on different things, but it goes back to, what are you willing to do to be great at anything in life?
Yeah.
What it is like, so we're talking about hoop here, right? But it applies to every single thing. Me and Coach Rich was having a talk the other day, and we were talking about kids that don't have to be pushed into doing well in school are some of the easiest kids to coach. Meaning that they have a desire to be excellent in the classroom.
They want
like
success.
Not a knock, like, because I wasn't like this phenomenal student, right?
In the classroom, right? But on the field,
I was a hard worker in the classroom, and I was extremely competitive. So when people thought I couldn't do something, I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna show you," right? There's countless stories with that. Where even when I was in high school, I was terrible at reading out loud. And folks used to laugh at me, and I used to be like, okay, I'm gonna show you.
That always terrified me too.
Right? Oh man,
Like, I don't know what it was.
It's like, teacher,
Like,
please don't make me read out loud.
Like,
Don't
who
call
wants to
me.
read that?
Like, you hide.
Yeah,
I was
you
like,
try to
hide,
get low.
let me hide behind this person.
Yeah.
And so when I got laughed at, I said, what could I do? So I started taking books and reading at home out loud to myself.
Yeah.
So I trained myself on how to public speak without fear. And I got better and better and better. So I took this thing that I was weak at, I struggled with, and I said, I don't like the feeling of being ashamed or insecure in this area.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take the work ethic that I have in basketball and I'm going to apply it to this. Right. And so all I'm doing is just shifting this work ethic thing to something else.
Yeah.
And this is what I did. So if I didn't know how to do something, I was like, how do I figure it out? Well, work ethic was always the common denominator.
Yeah.
It's just it.
Do you think access is what's made people's work ethic, like just the ease of information, the ease of access, that has made people's work ethic not like it used to be?
I mean, I believe that plays a role, 100%. Like I don't want to. I don't know.
Is
if
it culture? Is it like, I don't know.
It's the things are so much easier.
Yeah.
Like you think about it, right?
Yeah.
If you go to any AAU tournament, what is the first thing most kids do right after a game?
Get on their phone.
Get on their phone.
Yeah.
Do they think about, well, what just happened?
Yeah.
Do they have questions for the coach?
Yeah.
Like I talk to my players about this all the time. I will know your growth in basketball by the questions you ask.
Write that down.
It's really what question.
Yeah.
You ask kids, you got any questions? They be like, no.
No,
I'm like,
I'm good. And you're like, all right.
I was like,
You're not even you're already thinking about something else. You're not even thinking about the game.
Oh
Yeah.
man, like I think about my mentors in life and my mentors in basketball. Like I always had questions.
Yeah.
I probably drove Keith Jennings crazy. Either that or he was like, "Nah, I like this kid."
Yeah.
Right? When I think about it, because I always had questions for him, and I had a list of questions. I was like, when I got a chance, when the time he when he was with the Warriors backing up Tim Hardaway, he brought me to a workout, and Chris Mullin was there, and Tim Hardaway was there. Tim Hardaway was like one of my favorite point guards.
Yeah.
Watching this guy, that UTEP
crossover, man.
two-step that they called. Those that don't know who Tim Hardaway is, look him up. And when he was at University of Texas El Paso, and he had that between the legs cross at full speed, or between the leg cross
Nasty.
into a spin. Ooh. And I remember when I got that opportunity to be around him, and I was like, man, I gotta have some questions.
Here we go.
and he was, it was cool because his responses were really cool. Like, and one of the things he said to me, young fella, while the next man is sleeping, you got to be working. So you notice, like, I haven't forgot that. Like,
it's ingrained in you now.
You're talking about this was like 91, 92 or something like that.
Nugget never fell out.
Never fell out. And then he was like, okay, young fella, your footwork, your foundation. Okay, this is the breakdown of the in and out.
Yeah.
And then I had this is fun. Man, I know he won't remember this, but I will remember this. I will never forget. So I had this move back in the day where I would go in and out right into a whip behind the back, right? Not a behind the back crosser, but a whip behind the back. And so I hit him with this move in and out behind the back. Got it the first time. Second time, he ripped me. And I'm like, hold up. That's how you get that move? Pros are so their level, they're so advanced. You may hit them with a move one time. A lot of them they're gonna pick that up the second time.
Yeah.
And if that's your move, good defenders or good basketball players, they'll pick it up and they'll find your rhythm, all that kind of stuff. There's so much in that with the game of basketball.
Yeah.
And so after he said, young fella, you got that move down with your right hand, but you need to have it down with your left hand. You need to have it down both ways.
Yep.
So now you have counters upon counters upon counters. And so he was the first person to tell me, you have to have an A, a B, a C, a D. And if you have to go to E, you have an E move.
Yeah.
So your counters are counters upon counters.
Yep.
But it's not like you're doing them where you're coming down the game, you're like, I get this preconceived move.
Yeah.
Where you're not reading the defender. And it was like, nah, all your counters should be reactive. Meaning that like I may beat you. Now you cut me off. I have a counter for that.
Yep. You kind of bait them into it too, right?
Them.
You can bait them into it. So
Bait,
it's
like Coach Rich says all the time, bait, create, separate.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to bait you. Where am I trying to get to? Am I trying to get to the middle? So how am I going to bait you if I'm on the right side of the court? I want to get to the middle. How do I need to bait you to make you believe that I'm going right?
Yeah.
What does that look like?
Yeah.
These are things that players need to be thinking about as they're working on their game, and creativity.
Yeah.
Like where we can go into the gym. I could train a kid and give him kind of some structure, but they cannot rely on just that structure.
Yeah.
That's just foundational stuff. Where's their creativity? Because I don't want creativity to get lost. No, shout out to trainers. I get it. Sometimes players, they need to have their own creativity. If they're only stuck with your training, that's your mind, your creativity. And then in a game, they become very robotic and they become predictable. No. How do you add your sauce to that training? Because I can train 5 kids on the same thing foundational, and none of the 5 are going to do this thing the same way.
Yeah.
They're not. Some are going to do it faster. Some are going to be lower. Some are going to have better shoulder flow. Some are like stiff with it. So there's all these different things. It's like that player has to develop their basketball rhythm. What does it look like?
Yeah. And speaking of all that too, like all that training, the thing, with the topic, it seems to be the topic of the podcast is maximum effort.
Yeah.
That's another thing you see in these practices. The kids are just doing the drill. Mm-hmm. And they're not going full speed when they do the drill. Yeah. Like I've been talking to that with Wyatt because we want to build his speed. I'm like, you're just doing the drill. Now do it so fast that it messes you up so that you build that speed. That's why you're doing it in practice,
we talk max effort. Do you practice with effort? Do you ever practice when you're tired?
Yeah.
Because in a game, you think you're going to be fresh at every moment in the game.
Man, those go-get-it guys were not fresh last night.
Man.
Some running to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's a part of it.
Yeah.
Because when you're in shape, you play better.
Yeah.
When you're out of shape, you will get sloppy.
Yes. Yeah. It's just, man, it really does come down to, it's like I've said it before, but it's like the effort in your will is like a superpower.
Yeah.
And you can overcome better players with maximum effort. That's something right there for a lot of players to think about.
I mean, as you were talking, it had me, the thought that came to mind was Tom Brady. When Tom Brady...
No one wanted to even give him a chance either.
What was he, 6th round draft pick or something like that?
Like he barely even got on the NFL roster.
And I'm thinking about like that old picture that's floating around the internet about him with a shirt off, right? And this guy is now known as the greatest quarterback of all time.
Yeah.
Okay? If you would have said that when he was drafted, people would have looked at you like you're crazy.
Yeah.
It would have been like, what are you talking about? That guy?
The guy with the dad bod?
Yeah. It's like, so but he gave an example of what it's like when you're dedicated to something.
Yeah.
And you not only dedicated, but the effort matches it.
Yeah.
So you're like, I'm going to put this time in, because you can have dedication to something and you can be doing it on a day-to-day basis, but with 20% effort, you're only going to go so far.
Yep.
But when you have max effort with it, beautiful things happen.
Now think about if you combine that with talent. Max effort with talent, you get like a Pat Mahomes, Like it's
Yes. The natural talent of a player that has a high level, they're gifted.
Yeah.
You think about some of the greatest, what we would say, athletes of all times, and we're gonna bring up Jordan. Jordan's always gonna fit that category.
I mean, he can't. I mean, it's basketball, man.
No question, right? Then you look at the Bo Jacksons of the world, and you look at from football standpoint. You go baseball. You look at the greats, the Ken Griffey Jr., Deion Sanders, like Deion Sanders in football, to be able to play both ways, offense and defense,
and baseball,
and then you match it with work ethic. Yeah. That's where the greatness happens.
Yeah.
Right. I always say chance favors the prepared mind. That's what Coach Rich, that's one of his favorite. Chance favors the prepared mind. Okay. All right. So what does that mean? Okay. Am I prepared when that opportunity comes?
That moment, yeah.
Because we are all going to get a moment. Are you ready for when that moment comes?
Ooh.
Think about it. Players, are you ready for when that moment comes?
Yeah. That's really good. I need to let that simmer for a second, because like it really is, man. You just think about, like, look at Ant right now in the NBA.
22 years old. That dude.
The guy wants it. Like, I swear, Coach, I look at him and I'm like, the way he plays with effort on both offense and defense, where he's backing people down, doing old school 90s, Kobe fadeaways, Jordan fadeaways. And I'm like, this is a guy who has the talent.
Oh, yeah.
He's a student of the game. Yeah. You can definitely tell.
Yep.
He's worked on the way he talks, because he's charismatic when he goes into interviews.
Yeah.
And I really do think he could be the face of the NBA going forward.
Yeah, he's a throwback. Like there's no question. Like when I say he's a throwback, is how many players nowadays that are high level, and when the game is on, they can care less about being your friend. Now I know there's some dudes out there, but when I watch him, I see it with his action,
like the way he did with Kevin Durant.
Dude, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, like he was going at Devin Booker's head. Like, dude, I'm letting you know I'm the best two guard in the league. Yeah. Like, I'm letting you know I'm that dude, right? Yep. And he was like, yeah, Kevin Durant's my favorite player, but I got bragging rights against him. When I see him at USA Basketball, I'm gonna let him know.
Yeah,
right? Like, like, and to say it, to do it, to be able to back it up.
Yeah.
You're not able to do that without putting in the work. There's a lot of people that talk trash, but they cannot back it up. There's a lot of people that talk about their game. I'm this, I'm that, but they cannot back it up.
Yep. They don't see. That's the thing I always talk about with Wyatt and some of the other kids in the program. Is like, people like to look at like Ant, and they like to look at Durant's and all those, and like, man, I'm gonna be like that. But what they don't see is all those hours in between, and like how Kobe used to wake up at 3 o'clock and get 4 workouts in instead of just 2. Like,
I mean, but those guys wanted to be coached. Like, think about Kobe Bryant, arguably one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
Why did he have a trainer? Why did he listen to guys like Phil Handy?
Yeah.
Why does a guy like Ant-Man listen to guys like Chris Hines?
Yeah.
Like, if y'all don't know Chris Hines, who does a lot of stuff with Phil Handy in the offseason, that dude's a heck of a coach, a heck of a player development guy, heck of a basketball mind. Like, and, he's in that new commercial with Ant. That's like Chris Hines. If you ever see this new commercial with Ant on some of the sports stuff, I think it's with I think it's the headphone ones or something like that. I'm drawing a blank on it, but that dude, I watched that dude work. I'm like, ooh, I was fortunate enough to watch him and Phil Handy do a session at the 94 Feet coaches camp, right? Yeah. And I'm like, okay, these dudes are putting on a clinic. Like, this is legit. You look at the Rico Hines of the world, with the Philadelphia 76ers, and Rico's like, man, I'm always trying to catch a vibe with the guys that I'm training in the gym.
Yeah.
And he's like, meaning that we're in the gym and we're trying to get into a flow with hard work and dedication. And the guys he's worked with, some shooters. I'm like, man. So it's fun to see these players that are great but that want to be coached. And there's many of them in the league, right? From Steph Curry, trainer.
Yep.
Like, these guys are working with people. Their egos are not so big where they don't need nobody to work with.
I think that's the thing, Coach, is that separates them too, because not only is it like, it's the theme of the podcast is max effort, but like it's ego. Because I feel like so many times too, like maybe this is just me in my old head, right? But I see some of these kids that have access to so much stuff, so much information.
Yeah. And
then when a coach tries to help them, the response is, well, it's always worked for me this way.
Listen, sometimes you as coaches, we can't stop loving kids because of that.
Right.
But sometimes, at the end of the day, you can't keep saying the same thing over and over and over because that kid is telling you, Coach, I'm not changing.
Yep.
I'm not receiving that. So I'm like, okay, cool. Not gonna stop loving you, but you're only going to go so far.
Yeah. Your development will slow and
you're stagnant. The change is too hard and it's not worth it. That's what they're saying.
They're communicating,
right? Communicating, whether they're saying it verbally or not. Right?
Yeah.
They're saying, you know what, I really don't want to change it, and that change is too hard.
This works for me. I don't want to go through the effort.
I'm content.
Max effort again. Yeah. Max effort.
I'm content. The willingness to change is so key.
Yeah.
Like when I heard that story about Steph and his father, and Dale was like, yo, man, I think he was a sophomore in high school. His dad says, you got to change your shot if you want to play college basketball. Now we fast forward and we see Steph Curry now.
Yeah.
But can you imagine that? Like he had a touch. That when I look at some of his old
and then
footage,
you want to mess with it? Like,
he was getting some buckets. But his dad was talking about his release point.
Yeah.
He was talking about how fast are you getting your shot off. So there's little nuances of shooting that you're going to have to change as you go up in levels because the game gets faster.
Yes.
Right? And so it's talking about being able to catch in your shot pocket and being able to go up from your shot pocket up. And it's the kids that they're like, I'm not changing. I'm going to catch the ball standing upright. I'm going to bend my knees. Then I'm going to jump up and shoot. And they don't really factor in, well, how long is that taking me to get my shot off?
Someone can close out.
Right? Somebody close out, block it. Or the kids that release below their head, their release point is actually below their head. And so you hear in teaching and shooting where your elbow release point should be higher than your eyes, right? Your elbow, if you look at some of the great shooters, their elbow ends up higher than their eyes because now they're developing that arc, development and hiding the shot. They're able to get the ball over a defender's
Not
hands,
shoot it flat.
Not shooting flat at a defender, right? So these are little nuances, different things, and there's so many different philosophies. Like when, you'll hear some of the better shooting coaches where if you have a guy like Reggie Miller who has a flat-out incredible touch, his shot may be funky by pure shooting standards, but you're not touching his shot because his touch is so good.
His makes it.
He can go in there and he's going to knock it down.
Yeah.
But kids that or players, young players, whether it's high school, college, whatever, you'll see coaches like, we got to change his shot. Why? But it's because he's not knocking down shots. Like if I put you on a 3-point line and I said, okay, nobody's guarding you. Can you make 50% on consistently?
Yeah.
If you're not able to make 50% consistently, it really should be 60 to 70% when you're unguarded.
Yeah.
Okay? If you're around 50%, what do you think is going to happen when someone is guarding you?
Yep.
Your percentage is going to drop 10 to 15%, right? You know, and some a lot more, right? They're going to be shooting. Like if you're a high school player and you're shooting 30% from the three, I hate to break it to you. When you get in college, you're not a 3-point shooter.
You're not a 3-point shoot. Yeah.
You can talk to me all you want.
Yeah.
Numbers do not lie.
Yep.
You're not a shooter. You may think you're a shooter, but you're not a shooter.
Yep.
So let's just call a spade a spade. So now, are you willing to work on the things to become a shooter?
Yep.
Becoming a shooter is hard. It goes back to maximum effort. It goes back to the details. It goes back to, are you willing to be coached?
Coach Barnes just talked about that in one of his Instagram posts. That he talked about like stats don't lie. When you don't give max effort, you don't want to see a player that puts up 20 one night and 10 rebounds and then next night's a goose egg. And it's like,
keep on being a volume shooter, shooting 30 to 40% in high school, and watch it. You ain't sorry.
You're not going to go very far.
Listen. All right, listen. You don't have to believe me.
There's plenty of data out there about it. So
there's plenty of proof out there.
Look, you got a phone. Go look it up, man.
Dude, just talk to some of the listen to some of the college coaches when they talk.
Yeah,
just like they're telling you.
Yep.
Like it's not like when you see these different things with Gino Auriemma, you look at, you can listen to, Scott Drew's book, Road to Joy. There's all kind of stuff out there. There's data out there. Some of the great coaches out there. Coach Barnes is just one of those coaches that just puts it out there on a daily. Like, man, he's dropping gold and nuggets on the regular. The question is, a lot of these kids, they may listen to it, but they got holes in their pockets, coach.
Yep. Yeah.
When as soon as that podcast is over, they forget it because
not writing it down, not practicing it,
What is it going to take for me to make it to the next level? If that's my goal, if that's my desire.
Yeah. And the crazy thing, and this is what I love about basketball, is you can apply those principles to everything in your life.
Yep.
It's just so good. All right. Ask Coach.
Come on.
I got a good one for you. You've talked about it before because you talk about being in triple threat and things like that. But the question is, why is being low so important?
Oh, man. Whew. Glad somebody asked that question, right? And we can go in a bunch of different ways, okay? Right? Let's look at different sports.
Yes.
Okay? All right. Say you're running the 100-yard dash. Why do they start off in a block low?
Yep.
Because you're more explosive.
Yep.
Okay. So show me a player that's explosively quick as a guard in a half court set that is standing upright all the time.
Yep.
And then, okay, if I get two guys, same speed, and I say, okay, you have to start off standing up. And this person's going to start off low.
Yeah.
You're going to run full court sprint.
Yeah.
Let's see who wins. Like it's really simple, right?
Yeah.
And then when I'm low and I'm low and wide, right? We talk about wide base. You hear a lot of the great trainers, they talk about wide base. I'm in an athletic position. I'm stronger. I have more balance. Okay. So if I look at a big oak tree compared to like a bamboo tree, bamboo tree is going to sway way more, right? That oak tree, that big old base, that thing does not sway. Now the limbs may sway,
but that base,
that base ain't going nowhere.
Yeah.
Okay. So a lot of players get knocked off line, and so hopefully this helps some of young players get knocked off line because you're upright.
Yeah.
You don't have a strong base, and it's like a high rise. I'm trying to think of in terms of like building, right? The higher I build a building, a high rise building, the stronger the foundation has to be.
Yeah.
The deeper that foundation has to go.
Yes.
If I have a weak foundation in basketball, I'm going to be weak in the things that I do. It's
just like what the Bible says, how you build your foundation.
Listen, when I'm in triple threat, when I'm wide and low, and I have the ball on one side of me, you have to go through so much of me to get to that ball.
Yep.
The moment I step and put my feet together, I literally become narrow and I become
Just
weak.
shove you too.
And it's like they push me off my line. They can bump me and I'm falling and stumbling.
Yep.
So I hope that answers the question. I will never teach being an upright player.
Well, there's so many things that even for like, you think about rebounding. Like I remember during the basketball season, I was talking to Sam about this because he's such a big guy.
Yeah.
I was like, you have to get your hips lower than the guy you're trying to rebound against because it's leverage, simple leverage.
Low man wins.
Yeah. It's crazy, right? It's like,
everything.
Even
low
in
man wins.
football, right?
Yep.
They teach offensive linemen leverage by getting low.
Yeah.
And it's
why do they have a 3-point stance in football? Well, why don't all the defensive linemen just start standing up?
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a reason. When you're playing tennis, when you're getting ready to receive a serve, what is it? What do they do? Yeah. What is it? Are they ready?
And and you think about that even as a shooter, it's like a coil. You have to coil down and then back up, and it's so much wasted time.
Springs, you compress a spring.
Yeah.
What happens when you let it go? It explodes.
Right. If it's here, you don't have that explosion. Yeah.
So if I'm upright, how can I have any type of elasticity, explosiveness in the game? So at the end of the day, low man wins. If I'm low and wide on defense, I have more area that the offensive player has to go around. And it's really simple, right? If I have this water bottle in the phone, okay? And I'm sitting here, okay? I want to make sure this visual is here, okay? And I have this space. If I'm a person in the middle of this, I have so much more to go around just to get by.
Because it's wider,
It's wider.
Yep.
The moment I bring it in, now it's easier for me to get around.
Yep.
That's why I love, guys that are guarding me or guarding the players that I coach, man, I hope they stand up. I would love to play against a team. Man, listen, we got a tournament this weekend in Houston. I hope we play against a team that stands up and doesn't play defense.
There's a strong chance of that.
Right? I'm going to be like, man, we're about to eat.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's not taught enough. And you know, a lot of times it's, and a part of it is I think a lot of players ask that. I hate to say it, but it's because they're lazy. Because it hurts getting
Go
low.
do some squats. Yeah.
Right? It doesn't hurt standing up.
Yeah.
If I stand up in a basketball game, there's no pain in my legs. It doesn't max up. It doesn't require much. Yeah. So that's why you see players standing up and down, right? It requires effort.
Yeah.
There you go.
I love it, Coach. Effort equals attitude.
Yep.
I love it. Attitude, if you want to win, you want to lose, you want to put in the effort. I mean, what is that old saying about like when things are hard and you make it, it's more worth it than if things are easy and you never worked for it, right?
Oh.
It's like there's just something of more inherent value when you have to go through that trial or you have to go through that pain to make it there, right?
Like, and anything, you think about what you hear the term trust fund millionaire, right?
Yeah.
Compared to someone who worked to become a millionaire.
Yeah.
Like based on what I've seen, there's a higher level of appreciation because they had to go through some stuff to get it.
And future success,
right?
You know, it's like, because when it gets hard, they're like, hey, I can buckle down and get through this. Mm-hmm. When it's all been given without having any hard work or any max effort, I'm not so sure. I think I'm done. You know, they quit.
Yep.
The old saying, quitters never win, winners never quit. Right. So
100%.
Man. So any other nuggets, Coach, before we close this bad boy up?
Man,
anything on your heart, I should say. Maybe that's a little bit better question, a little more open-ended for you.
When I think about like us, like, man, I'm thankful that we woke up this morning.
Yeah.
And we have the opportunity to make a difference this day. So when you were asking that question, it's like, man, how privileged are we? How blessed are we that we get the opportunity to make a difference?
Yes.
And so when I put it in terms of players, you have an opportunity today, not yet, can't change what happened yesterday,
Nope.
today, to make a difference, to impact not only your own life, but the lives of others.
Yeah.
And when you think about it in a team concept, when I don't give max effort, I'm not only letting myself down, I'm letting my team down.
Yeah.
And when you're a part of something bigger than yourself, that team effort, man, it is one of the most fulfilling things, and it's absolutely powerful.
Yeah.
To know that the stories down the line, man, I was a part of something great. Be a part of something great. As Coach Barnes says, be great today. Like I like, man, I love
that.
it. Be
Simple
great
and
today.
easy.
Simple and easy. Be great today.
Yeah.
What does that mean? What does that mean for you?
Yeah. That's good, Coach.
Come on.
That's good. Guys, thanks for listening. By the way, you would really help us out if you share the podcast, review the podcast, all those things. We want to try to reach more players and things like that. So, yeah, we're just going to keep rolling.
Please do. Please share it. And if you have questions, ask them.
Yeah.
Like ultimately, our heart is to try to give to the best of our knowledge, the best of our ability, with the hopes that we're impacting lives the right way. Right. And so ask away, share it, comment, good or bad. Like, you're not going to hurt my feelings. You're not going to hurt Coach's feelings. At the end of the day, we're doing this to grow, improve, and leave. This is a part of our legacy, I would say. Right.
Yeah, man. It's building into others so that, you know, so I'm going to leave with the verse that we have on our Instagram. I think this is a good one for some of the people that may not have read it.
Yeah.
So let me pull it up real quick.
Come
here. All right. Hold on. Let me make sure I got the right verse. I think I read it wrong.
Yeah. It's all good, Coach. Come on.
There we go. Dyslexia kicking in right over here. 5:4. All right. It's 1 John chapter 5, verse 4. For whatever is born of God overcomes the world, and this is the victory that has overcome the world, our faith.
Love it.
Right on.
Come on.